All right, hard yarners. I am firstly going to, before we get into the sponsors and what's going on in this episode, today's episode is incredible. I loved it. It's one of my favourite and arguably one of the more important episodes I think I've had the pleasure of sharing in a long time. So take that as you go into this episode. But before I introduce our guests and what we spoke about today, this episode is brought to you by alltradescover.com.au. If you're watching at home, you can see behind our wonderful guests there, All Trades Cover, their logo. But, Bryn, do you have a trade that you need covering? Probably not. You're in the psychology area. But if you were a tradie and you needed some sort of coverage, I would recommend you hit up alltradescover.com.au. All Trades, they're great. John Elliott is a regular guest from time to time on the podcast. Insurance mogul who's got a couple of little insurance companies, but All Trades Cover specialises in the tradies. Big business, small business, medium-sized business, whatever you are. If you need coverage, they're going to be able to help you. They've expanded. They've got more people working for them. And generally, they've been in trades themselves, so they can help, really identify the pitfalls that you normally come into, the things that you don't normally remember to get covered, and ways you can come undone when it comes to insurance. So if you're a tradie, I'm surprised how many tradies don't have coverage. So get involved. Hit up All Trades Cover. And I'd appreciate it if you drop hard yarns as a bit of a line in there to make sure they know that we're sending people their way. This episode is also brought to you by Crafted Finance. We actually had Teddy on 2 days ago to talk a bit of finance, but if it comes to mortgage broking, I guess business loans, personal loans, whatever you need in regards to finance, they can help. Crafted Finance, if you really want to know a lot about them, you go listen to the episode before this and you'll find some pretty interesting details. He's got a lot of knowledge when it comes to finance, but basically, very broadly speaking, he wants to be able to help you get the best loan possible for the term of the loan. If you can pay less interest over that, he'll present the options to you. It's your choice what you go with, but he's going to present you all the options. Him and Zoe, I should say, they're a family-run business. They're like-minded. They're great people, and I would appreciate if you're going to get a loan, go through Ted, because helps us, helps them, and as we discuss in this episode, collectively, when we all come together, that is always a good thing. So that brings us to our guest and what today's episode is about. We were joined today by Bryn Edwards. What would you classify yourself as?
I work in the area of systemic organisational psychology.
Systemic organisational psychology, mate. It is a very broad topic, very big topic, and very important topic.
Yes.
As you know, I didn't know what to expect coming into this, but one of my favourite episodes that I've been involved in for a while. Do you recall what we chatted about? Because it's a very, very big topic.
Yeah, look, we went into lots of different places, but ultimately, at its core, we looked at how does life work? How does life work when we organise around the principles of life? Mm-hmm. What happens when we don't? Whether that's individually, collectively, in small groups like families and businesses, as well as them out to states and globally. And really, we looked at what are these universal principles that apply to all of us, what happens when we don't follow them, and then how we get lost in emotional bubbles and patterns and things, and how if we are not rooted to our nature, place and purpose, we'll just get lost. And then we get lost within ourselves, and then we get lost within the cultural commons, which has an enormous influence. And if we are not looking after the cleanliness and the integrity of these bigger spaces that surround us that most of us don't understand, we'll just get pillared from pillar to post. And the last bit was the big gaslight in there that there's something wrong with us.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with us.
Mate, incredible episode. I can't wait for the listeners to get involved with this one. So without further ado, let's get hard.
Welcome to Hard Yarns Podcast.
I am fucking fat.
Anything Chris White says, please disregard it.
5D is actually a state of being. It's a unity consciousness.
That was Hard Yarns with me, Frankie Rose. So I'm going to throw it over to your co-host,
Daniel Jelby.
And Cameron Branch.
I would do this and then I'd gong.
Free in attendance for the millions listening at home. Let's get hard.
Mate, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
We've been linked up together by, what was it? Was it Cam Watt?
West.
So,
Watt,
yeah. So very nice. Mate, you know what? I'll give a brief explanation as to, we've just done a little exercise
Yes, we did.
outside, which is very nice, very cool. It was interesting.
Yeah.
And something I like doing these sorts of things, these exercises. Probably good timing for me as well, because we did the brain mapping last week and it said I still had a little bit of things to deal with.
Yeah.
There's something down
Something
here in the back,
lingering in there.
in the back right little spot of the brain. But mate, just give a brief explanation to who you are and what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah. So my name's Bryn Edwards. So I work in the area of what I refer to as systemic organisational psychology. I work for a small little, highly specialised boutique consultancy based over in Myree called Wisdom in Your Life.
Okay.
And I guess my big stick, what sits underneath all of it, what I really, really do, is help put life as a central organising principle back into how individuals, families, organisations and larger groups organise themselves
Okay.
as a central organising principle.
Okay. So like, would that extend to things like teams, like sporting?
Yep.
And just the way everything works together in simpatico.
Indeed. I think the way to understand that a bit more is, so, like I said earlier on, I did a podcast for 4 years called WA Real.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big learnings I got out of that over the 4 years and the 200 conversations I had was that essentially, despite the rise of depression, anxiety, suicide, etc., there's fundamentally nothing wrong with most of us.
No, that's
90% of us, right?
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with us. What is happening is an appropriate response to ways of doing, ways of being, ways of organising that don't have life as its central organising principle.
Yeah.
Right? So we're like the canary birds in the mine shaft. Canary birds in the mine shaft, right?
Yep.
And the canary bird's falling off the perch, and we're all trying to resuscitate the canary bird as opposed to going, hang on a minute, the surrounds are all toxic.
Yeah. So is this along the lines of, trying to fix yourself actually makes things worse?
No.
Like this concept, I think Alan Watts talks about it quite a lot. It's just, that idea of what is it? The fighting the, I can't remember the exact quote, but fighting the inner person is it's futile because you are the person you're trying to fight.
Yeah. Look, on one level, you're absolutely correct. I love it when people say, "Oh, I've done a lot of work on myself," because it's like, well, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, is there a bit that came out and sat above and worked on and then came back out? No, you're doing work in yourself. You're doing work in yourself all of the time. And look, we do have
renovation still ongoing. Our listeners are aware of this.
So look, it's about understanding the influences that are in our life, right? I wrote a short ebook called "Patterns and the Hidden Architecture of Your Life," which is free and everyone can buy it. Download it. It's 25-minute read. And the reason why I wrote that was because I kept noticing that there's like this hidden architecture of there's these large cultural forces that are all around us, right? And because we like tangible things and we like to look at people and individuals and individualize stuff, we don't see it, right? And within there's all these cultural forces. There's the force to be individualized, competitive, hierarchical. Like the layer cake.
Yeah.
Right. And in order for us to deal with this, we have to tell ourselves stories, right? We tell ourselves stories, tell ourselves illusions, I'm in control, I'm getting on with stuff. One of my favorite, being British, is sense of duty and obligation, and so we tell ourselves these stories, right? And the challenge is those stories become the things that we look out into the world on.
Okay.
And so as a result of telling ourselves these stories, we live in those stories, and those stories have consequences, right? And so we give up what's going on inside of us, and we become shaped from the outside in.
Yes.
Right? And this is where these cultural forces start to replicate themselves within. So Alan Watts may well have been onto something where it's like it's futile to fight the inner critic, because the inner critic may well be a pattern that's replicated from the surrounding culture.
Yeah. I mean, I had this very conversation with someone the other day, and they were saying they're not creative. And I said, well, who said you're not creative? And why can't you be creative? And we got to the point where you could be creative, maybe not in book writing or maybe doing a stand-up comedy routine or something along those lines. Maybe you can't be creative in that way. Maybe that's not your forte, but maybe you could be creative in culinary, like the way you cook, the way you talk, something you could draw, whatever.
And what even do we mean by creative?
Yeah.
And I'll come back to that in a sec. And so the challenge is that we tell ourselves these stories, and these stories, because we then organise our life around it.
Yeah.
Right. One of the features of being a living organism is that you're continually self-organising. Right? All the time. And one of the features of being dead is that stops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you organising around?
Yeah.
What is the central principle that you're organising around? So are you organising around the pulse, which is you, which is where your creativity comes from? Or are you organising around stories, forces that are outside of you? And if you are, then that will come with a trade-off. And trade-offs over time have consequences. That's where our destructive patterns live.
Yeah.
And so this continues and perpetuates, because none of us have normalised the conversation to talk about what are the dynamics that are hiding out in the culture. Right? And by the culture, I mean the space that's all around us. Right? There's what's going on within me, there's what's going on between us, but then there's everything that's going on surrounding us. Right? That's where culture lives. And we don't look at that, we don't try and maintain it, we don't try and keep it clean and tidy. We all know not to drive down the street and throw your Snickers wrapper out the window.
Yeah.
Because you're just littering the physical commons.
Yeah.
But do we do the same with the emotional commons, with the cultural commons? Right, we're dumping shit in that all day, every day. Between what's written online, what's written in the media, the way we interact with ourselves, the way we're kind of happy to tell each other to fuck off all the time, or don't like it, fuck off.
Especially online. It's
right.
like you don't have that physical person in front of you. You sort of
No, and this is where I love Mike Tyson. Because he's what did he say? He says you've all got really comfortable saying stuff to each other online that would normally get your face filled in.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not advocating violence, but there is a feedback loop there, and so we organise around these external stories, and they come with consequence. Now, the consequence doesn't just happen straight away today. It's like one little feather, one little feather, one little feather, one little feather, and you stay stuck in this. Until certain events start to occur. I don't know, like you lose a job, or all of a sudden you find your spouse is cheating on you, or a really good friend or a family member dies. They're usually big ones. Grief will mess up a pattern in no time.
Yeah.
There's the beauty of grief. That's the beauty of grief. And why is it that everyone will come together to a funeral, and we'll focus on what's important in life?
It's to quote the Verve, it's the bittersweet symphony of life, isn't it?
It is, but what has it done? What has that grief of the lost one done? It's shattered this holding pattern of cultural forces, stories, trade-offs, me telling myself stories. I got to be productive. If not today, it's got to be tomorrow. All of this. And then all of that gets shattered, right? Just in that moment. And then everybody sits around and goes, why did we not have this party another day? Because the next day we'll all go back into it.
Yeah.
Right? And that's really important. And it's not just grief, right? Psychedelics will do it. Meditation will do it. Even the consequence of the load that you start carrying over time as a consequence of these trade-offs will get to a point. That's why we have midlife crisis.
Oh, and
I
you raise meditation, that's a perfect way.
Yeah.
I've been using that. But then I've found even further, and using something as simple as cooking dinner or playing with my daughter or doing the dishes or whatever it is, I'm struggling at the moment to find the time and space within my own house to actually get time free to do meditation.
Yeah.
And I've started finding it in the presentness. It's a lot more difficult, which is why I think there's benefits in meditation, because it lets you really calm down, really listen and be present, focus on breath, focus on the present now.
Yes.
But yeah, really putting the effort in to try and find that present moment within something as simple as doing the dishes is that has really been that's been in the last 2 or 3 days. I found that.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I don't need meditation right now. I like it and I will continue to do it.
Yeah,
but I've found it in other ways to be present, because that's all it is, isn't it?
Well, is it?
Well, yeah. Well, for me, it's a way to ground myself and find myself in that present moment.
Yeah. So
that we're removing ourselves from consistently.
So finding yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the key thing that you've just said, finding yourself. I've just told you about the hidden architecture that plays out in our life, right? Where we are completely pulled from pillar to post by external forces and external stories, and the outside world coming inside, right? And you're finding a moment to try and find yourself. So what is it you're actually finding in there? So
What is self?
well, what is it you're actually finding in there? What you're connecting to is your core nature,
Yeah.
your absolute core nature. It's the part of you that is indestructible. It is, I rather crudely get this across in when we do our compass workshops. When your dad's wiggler went into your mum's egg, there was a spark, right? That spark was calm, right? You will always be that spark, right? And it's there from the start to the end, right? And that's where all your knowing comes from. Like if we consider a tree, when a seed hits the ground and it first sprouts open, right? That tree is always going to be that tree. It's always going to have the roots it's going to have. It's always going to have the branches it's going to have. It's always going to have the leaves it has. It has all the knowing it needs about itself.
Yeah.
That's its nature.
Yeah, we crudely brand ourselves as the most intelligent creature on the planet Earth. Yet, who's to say what intelligence is?
Yeah.
It's a conscious sentient awareness of who we are and what we're doing, but
Kinda.
who's to suggest that the tree's just living as it is not far more intelligent than what we're doing and experiencing right now?
Well, it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right? And that tree then has to work out, where do I put my roots, where do I put my branches, where do I put my leaves to get water, to get sunlight, to deal with the wind. And that's nurture, right? Nature and nurture work together. It's not nature versus nurture. That's just rubbish, right?
Yeah.
This pitting against them and us, them and us, them and us, you know. It's nature and nurture working together. So in those quiet moments of doing nothing, what is it you're trying to listen to? You're trying to listen to the signal, which is your core nature. Now, if you are not connected to your core nature, right, everything in nature has a nature, place, and purpose. A nature, a place, and a purpose. If you're not connected to your nature, place, and purpose, then even when the death of a loved one, you know, or a really fundamental ayahuasca journey, or, you know, look at the stars and have a sense of awe, and that cracks this pattern, right, this hidden architecture, even if it cracks it for a while, if you are not connected to your nature, place, and purpose, you will just fold back in. Fold back in. I went to an English boys' boarding school for 11 years, right? And one of my most favourite days was snow days, because the whole fucking pattern of the thing got disrupted. One of the saddest days of the year for me is usually the 2nd or 3rd of January. Why? Because we've all had a couple of weeks off over Christmas, and everyone's like getting on with each other, and we're having a laugh and da-da-da-da-da. And then it's almost like 2nd or 3rd, whichever day is the day to go back to work, clicks. And then everyone just forgets everything. Like automatrons, off we go, back to work. And, you know, to me, it's always been sad.
Yeah.
It's been fundamentally sad day because I think right from that boarding school experience of you being in this highly structured environment, you know, and what sits underneath all of this? Control and power imbalances, right? We'll come to that in a sec. But you know, you have this institution that tells you when to go to sleep, when to wake up, when to eat, when to go to the toilet, when you're doing work, when you can do recreation. You know, that's boarding school. But also sounds like FIFO, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, we just go along with this external structures which have enormous influence. We do not understand the scale of the influence of the systems that we've created.
Yeah, because we are creatures of habit, aren't we?
Well, we are creatures of habit, and we're also creatures of acceptance. Like, part of humanity's core energy pattern is to accept, right? That's part of our power, but it's been part of our downfall as well, because we'll accept a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And that's humanity as a whole. That's all of us, not just you individually, Cam, with your nature, place, and purpose, because humanity has a nature, place, and purpose as well.
Okay.
Right? And so if we are not connected to that pulse, which is you, of, you know, you from the inside out, if we're used to the outside in and the outside world telling us who we are and what we do and this, that, and the other, then we'll continue to go around and round and round in circles. You know, and even when we have these moments where, you know, you get made redundant, or wife cheats on you, or you have the big mushroom journey, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it all comes apart. If you haven't got a fundamental connection to your nature, place, and purpose, if you don't that helps you to see the patterns that you are in, so that you can start seeing them and actively dismantling them, you'll just fold straight back in, because your patterns are way, way stronger than anything you can say.
Now,
these are in your unconscious.
Now, who places our nature, place, and purpose within us?
What places is in? What?
Does that suggest something more bigger than us, divine, something that we can't even contemplate? Or do you think it's part of nature? It is nature. We are nature. And it's a naturally occurring randomness.
So my honest answer to that, Cam, and please don't take this the wrong way, is that's not good use of my time to think about.
No, that's a very good answer, though.
Right.
It's what we were getting at. Who cares? Well, I think we talked prior out there.
And
it doesn't
matter. For some people it's very important, right? Because we all have a part of our nature, place, and purpose. We all have a natural focus level, right? Some like the minutiae, some like the collective, some like the global, some like me. I'm wired in to look at things systemically, right? I want to know how it all works. I want to know how it all comes together. I want to tinker with it, play with it, make it better.
Yeah, the curiosity within you.
Yeah. Some are more universal. They want to see the threads to everything, and some go beyond. Right? Look, we've all got a focus level, and because we don't understand our individual focus level, we're trying to speak French to German people, and we're but we all think we're speaking English, you know. And
what's good as a story if
so for
you
me,
don't speak each other's language?
Yeah,
exactly,
I mean, if your focus level is beyond, then contemplating questions like that is right up your alley. For me, it's not a good use of my time, because a good use of my time is looking at things, you know, like, how do things work, and how so we can make them better.
Would you suggest that's your purpose, place, and time? And
well, I know what my nature, place, and purpose is.
Yeah.
Right. You know, everyone's place is in the centre of their life.
Yeah.
Right. Although not many people spend a lot of time there.
No.
They're out, all they're here and everywhere. But my purpose, I told you it right at the very start of this podcast, is to put life as a central organising principle of how we do things, so we can restructure. Right, that's
interesting of what I've drawn then.
Yes, yeah.
We can get to that later.
Yeah,
yeah.
So all of this is really important, because the cultural gaslight that we all carry at the moment is that I'm the problem. Something's wrong with me
because I don't fit in with societal norms.
Yeah, but the societal norms are all individualised, competitive and hierarchical. That's not our true nature. Our true nature is to be collective, circular and collaborative, right? For anybody who's been to a country just in the short aftermath of a natural disaster, like I had 1998, El Nino, Ecuador, I was there, bridges got washed away and everyone loved it because they just put away their wallets and everyone played volleyball and just ate chicken and rice, and we were all friends. And then as soon as electricity came back on, it's like, oh shit, we've got to play wallets again and money and stuff.
But the collective humanity faced with such a disaster, it bridges that that divide that is normally between us all.
And this is the key thing, right? We are continually organising and shaping our lives individually and collectively in ways that run against our true nature, that don't have life as the central organising principle. The life that runs through me, Cam, is the same life that runs through you.
Yeah.
Through that, is that a real plant behind you?
No, that one's
No,
a
all
fake
right.
plant.
Leave that to you.
I'm not going to water it enough, but
No,
yeah.
but the life that runs through me is the same life that runs through you, that runs through that tree that we were talking about, birds, animals, and everything, right? And that life, you know, that life force is part of this, you know, self-organising. The self-organising doesn't just stop within me; it stops like you and I are doing it between us.
Yeah.
And if we hung out more and more, we'd have a relationship, and that would start self-organising, right? But the size of that relationship, if we hung out for longer and longer and longer, would become bigger than the individual. So it starts shaping us. That's where culture lies, right? And, you know, and if there was a third person, like, so if your other host, Delby was here as well, and we started all hanging out and we created this relationship, and that, you know, we've been hanging out for 12, 18 months, and all of a sudden, I don't know, you're showing up because you're showing up slightly differently because you've got some drama on in your life or this, that, and the other, and we don't pay attention to that, but you start saying some cheeky comments, right? And we're all like,
Oy, yeah.
What the fuck's going on with him, right? So you're throwing some mess into the
collective,
unseen commons that we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, and then all of a sudden, Delby rings me up and goes, "What's up with Cam? Like, he's been a right dick."
Yeah.
And then you do it again and you do it again. We just created a divisive dynamic that now sits in the collective unconscious of our relationship. Now, if that's not addressed, that will stay there, and it might lie dormant. You might chill out and sort yourself out and come back into the relationship like you are. But unless we address that, just like patterns in our own unconscious, but unless we address that in the collective unconscious commons of our relationship, that will lie dormant, right?
So is that like as in address that person's behaviour to that person so they can address it or be aware of what they're doing?
No.
Okay.
Well, yes, you have to address your own behaviour, but we collectively have to address the fact that between us, you turned up dropping shit in the relationship, and me and Delby started talking about you, right, which creates a divisive dynamic in the commons, right? So we collectively have to recognise that you need to clean your shit up in there. It's fine. It's your responsibility, and responsibility is really key here. We'll talk about it, particularly in terms of grown-ups. But unless we recognise that divisive dynamic was created, it will lie dormant within the culture, and then maybe in 6 months' time, Delby will have something, and straight away you and I will be on the phone bagging him out because the dynamic is there and it's ready to be executed. It's ready to percolate up into the way you feel, the way you do. This is why in an organisation, if something, whether it's a sports club or whatever, right, if it's got a bad toxic culture, changing the CEO does fuck all, right? It's the dynamics that are in the collective unconscious.
How can we do that?
What, clean it up?
Yeah.
Quite easily.
Is that up to the individual with the poor behaviour, or is it up to the collective?
It's the collective. So the collective needs to come together. Now, in order to do that, you need to understand your nature, place, and purpose, because you need to understand what's yours and what's not yours.
Okay.
Right?
So
you need to be able to discern with accuracy and precision, right? You need to be, like in our instance where you're turning up and chucking the shit in, right? You need to be able to go, right, this is what I'm responsible for, right? But I wasn't responsible for creating the divisive dynamic. You two did, right? But it is in our collective relationship, and so we need to form a collective, right? Have you ever had a conversation where, like, the conversation takes an energy of its own, and you're all part of it, but you feel like it flows through you, and it's flowing, but then it might tread on tread on the toe of a sacred cow for someone,
Yeah.
right? And then they go, oh, I don't like that. And then it just shrinks,
Yeah.
right? And I got, in the back end of doing the WA Real podcast, I started to get this with a few guests, particularly if I pulled a guest back for a returning conversation, right? It would be this sense of, instead of one talks to two and we listen to two, which was the bulk of my podcast, it was one talks to two and we create three. And three is an entity in and of itself, right? And that's exciting, right? And because 1 and 2 have created 3, and 3 is bigger than 1 and 2 individually, right? Now we've created space for collective wisdom and interest and intelligence to actually show up in the world. But if you're not rooted in your nature, place, and purpose, if you are still have a sense of identity that's only rooted in your beliefs, right, not in the indestructible part of you, which, you know, come and go, whatever will happen, but it will still be there for you all the time, you will shit yourself and you'll close that conversation down.
I'm smiling across from you because I have been toying with this idea quite a lot. I think I've said it a few times on the podcast of this, you know, there's a lot of divisive things happening around the world. There's a lot. And I've been suggesting that I think we need to stop pointing the finger at each other and start focusing on self. And that sounds selfish and it sounds like you're burying your head in the sand. But no, for me, and it felt right to suggest that. I didn't know why or how you do that, but I knew, I guess subconsciously, that we need to start focusing on self and how we can not necessarily improve self, but that must be the core of what I was sort of getting at. Is how can we go back to our nature?
Let's take out the word improve.
Yeah.
Because your nature doesn't need any improving whatsoever. Yeah. Right?
Understanding, potentially?
Let's start putting in the word responsibility.
Okay.
Right. There's a lot of adults in the world. There are not a lot of grown-ups. Right? When COVID kicked off, and let's not disappear into COVID too quickly. Yeah. But we'll probably use it a bit later. When COVID showed up, I had this incessant thing of, fuck, when are the grown-ups going to show up in this? Yeah. And they never fucking did. No. Right? So it was at that point I suddenly went, shit, I've got to become one of the grown-ups. So what does being a grown-up mean? Being a grown-up means that you take responsibility. You take responsibility for who you are, how you work, your purpose in the world, and the stuff you're putting into the world, and the stuff that you have put into the world. You take responsibility for all of it. Now, that's fucking existentially challenging for most people.
Oh, yeah. Everyone.
Because at the moment, right, you're right, you're now beginning to get a sense and feel of these divisive dynamics that are lodged within our collective unconscious, which is our culture that surrounds us, right? I'll give you a great example of one at the moment, right? Systemically within the economy, there's an enormous wealth inequality. Yeah. Right? The amount of wealth that's shifted in the last 5 years is stupid, right? We can all feel this them and us inequality, right? So, but we can't quite pin it down on the economy, right? So that dynamic's there, right? It's the way we've organised ourselves. It's created this dynamic. So where does it come out on? Well, we start marching and looking at immigrants and them and us, right? Is them and us going on all over the place? Yeah. Right. And where does them and us come from? Or it comes from anger. Right? We carry individually and collectively an enormous resentment and anger load. Right? Enormous. But what's the one thing that happens when you carry a lot of anger? You blame. It's everybody's fault. Right? It's them, it's this, it's them. The government are controlling, the billionaires are doing this. It's all around, right? But while we're blaming, what we're not doing, we're not taking responsibility for who we are and what we're carrying. Yeah. Right? There is shit tons in the world to be angry about. I'm not disputing that, right? And there's plenty of wonky stuff, right? But if you are not actively acknowledging, expressing, and let go of the anger load that you carry, if you're not taking responsibility for that, then you are lost. You are not at the center of your life, and you are abdicating responsibility, right? And the other way that this plays out is, you know, people then take on so much responsibility, right? and this is generally fueled by guilt, they take on so much responsibility for everybody and everything. You know, you see this hugely in the mental health space, particularly in the men's mental health space. I'm going to go and save the world. I'm going to save the men. Da 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 da. But while you're saving them, who are you not saving? Who are you not looking after?
Yourself.
Yeah. And because, you know, to face up to your own patterns, to your own anger, to your own guilt load, your own sadness load, right? To face up to the patterns that you have ended up having to adapt to, you know, create, because you've been on the wrong end of some power and control imbalances, right? And power and control imbalances, you know, they're the thing that fundamentally play with our energy pattern, how life flows through us.
Yeah.
They leave marks, all of which can be cleaned up, right? And, you know, control imbalance and power imbalance. What is their other name? A control imbalance is trauma.
Yeah.
Power imbalance is abuse.
Okay.
Right. That's our definition that we use when we help people to clean up the patterns of control and abuse.
Yeah.
Control, trauma, power, abuse, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you encounter an event, when you encounter a situation where you lose control, that is traumatic, right? And that can interfere with how life flows through your body, how you organize, right? When you encounter abuse, someone steals your power. So they might take part of your power or shrink it, make you small, make you quiet, right? And this isn't just person on person, because we all know about person on person abuse, right? And there is no objective register of, you know, I'm going to be blunt here, you know, being fiddled with by a Catholic priest is above, you know, being told that you were fat when you were 13. Right?
Yeah.
It's all fucking subjective, because that's one of those cultural things.
Yes.
You know, that there is, you know, objective truth, and
correct.
You know, it's all happening within us, in our subjective, right? So it's not just person on person, it's institutional as well. It's these bigger spaces that are causing trauma and abuse upon us. You know, going to a boarding school for 11 years, right? Nothing wonky happened to me. You know, there were no priests there were no boys doing weird shit that, you know, right? But the whole thing was systemic institutional abuse. Yeah. And it was fucking traumatic. And for years I couldn't understand. There was something wrong with me, but I didn't have anything to point towards. Yeah. And then after a while, the penny dropped. It's like, fuck.
Because subjectively, sometimes it doesn't matter how traumatic it is. It's what you create in your mind as what it's meaning to you. Yeah.
Well, it's how you've reorganized yourself.
Yeah.
How you've reorganized for life to flow through you or not.
Yeah.
As well as it could.
Yeah. What limiting self-beliefs you potentially created because of it.
They come above it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, limiting self-beliefs are, you know, part of the way down. There's a lot more underneath these patterns, right?
Yeah.
So this is all occurring, right? And it's not just occurring individually, it's occurring collectively, that we're on the wrong end of power imbalances. And so, you know, it's like I said, there's a lot of things to be angry about, right? But while we're being angry and carrying it around like a fucking trophy and getting all G'd up and this, that, and the other, right? The key thing that being angry and or guilty does, and the two play around in a circle, right? That we just get lost in.
Yep.
And then, you know, I won't go there. That's another tangent. While we're doing all of that, the one thing we're not doing is taking responsibility. And if we're not taking responsibility, how do we know what our nature, place, and purpose is? How do we know?
So is the answer to how we can solve the collective division, the things we're seeing in the world, as well as the division within ourselves and other, is it the same process? Is it the same answer? Is it come back to our nature, place, and purpose?
So
individually.
So we've been cleaning up cultures in organisations for the last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
And the first thing you need to do is gather a collective of individuals. But before you can even form that collective, those individuals need to be able to connect to their nature, place, and purpose, right? They need to be able to discern what's mine, what's not mine, right? And have started started to develop the process and practice within themselves to work out what's mine, what's not mine, how can I build the connection to my nature, right? How can I retain myself at the center of my life, at my place, right? How can I discern between the signal, which is me, and which is the patterns that I've picked up along the way,
Yeah.
right? Because a lot of us confuse ourselves for our traumas
Yeah.
and our abuse patterns, right?
Yeah.
We think that that's us, and it's not. And so as a result, you know, our thinking patterns, our feeling patterns are not our own. That was quite a confronting day when I realised that most of my feeling patterns were not mine.
No.
They belonged to
Outside influences.
mum,
Yeah.
some of the people that were around me,
Yeah, correct.
you know.
Yeah.
So you start to connect to your nature, place and purpose. You understand your essence. You start to see how that has a place in the world, how it evolves and grows.
Yeah.
Right. And then once you have that place, then you can form a collective,
So
like we talked about with that sort of collective.
I noticed you
Conversation.
use the word connect, not know. So you said connect to your nature, place, and purpose.
Then you integrate it.
Do you need to? Is it less a knowing or a feeling or
It's a knowing.
It's a knowing,
It's a knowing.
and in a
Because-
knowing, not being able to describe it, or is it just knowing you're on the path, like your intuition?
You just know what's yours. Yeah. It's the sort, your core
Yeah.
is the source of your intuition.
So not like like, and I'm just trying to break it down
Yeah.
for the listeners. It's not like you have to go, all right, I'm going to be this, and this. This is who I am, or whatever. You write it down. This is just more of a. It's here. It's in
This
the
is what
heart.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no choice in this.
Yeah. I know that I'm making the right decision, even though it might seem illogical. Or that's style of thing, like
Yeah.
the intuition.
So over the last 4 years of so to work at wisdom in your life with Rosalind Snyder, who is the owner and the director, right? You spend the first couple of years just learning how this works for you first. You know, you want to understand anger, understand your own anger. You want to understand power imbalances, understand your own power imbalances.
Yeah.
You want to know your core. You want to know about core nature, understand your own.
Yeah.
Right. You want to understand about colonization, understand how you've been colonized.
Know thyself.
Yeah, but know it. Right. And the amount of times clients will say to me, "Yeah, I think it's this." I don't want to know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Right. Because thinking is the tool that we all use. Right.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more to us. Right. This is what we do. This is what we think. This is what we feel. This is what we believe. What we sense.
Which is
and
then-
what we know.
Which is created from the outside influences.
Correct.
Yeah. So the knowing, I know for me,
Yeah.
is sometimes the logic and your fears get in the way of like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I want to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I want to do this. All logic suggests I shouldn't do it." And then the fear of like, what if this fails or something?
Yeah.
And then which is what we call the leap of faith. Sometimes if you do that, if it's a change of direction in work, or if it's ask the girl out, go for the kiss, whatever the fuck it is, I don't know.
It is.
It's a knowing like, no, I'm doing it.
I'm doing it.
I'm doing it because
It's just happening. You know,
Yeah.
the amount of times people come and tell me like, you know, oh, you know, I kept going back and telling this person this and that, and I'm in the drama and
Yeah,
and I sit there and go, are you surprised?
Yeah. I guess knowing, though, also with love. Because if my knowing says I have to go on a psychopathic killing spree, that's something else going on, isn't it?
That's probably not your no. That's
Yeah.
probably not your no.
Yeah, correct. So I think with a knowing with love and compassion for the collective as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, humanity at its core has a very loving, caring nature, right? That's humanity, the big group that we're all part of,
Yeah.
right? It's very accepting, it has a very loving and caring nature,
Yeah.
right? It's just been polluted with fear, right? Which has created a lot of the dynamics in humanity that we see. So I'm trying to work out which loop we've opened that we're going to close now.
Yeah.
Because we've opened a lot.
Yeah,
But
so let's
we were talking about cleaning up the cultures.
Yes.
Right. So you need those people to be connected to their nature, place, and purpose, which sounds like an enormous job, but it's not, because it's not when you have somebody who has fully comprehensive and integrated frameworks of how we work, right? Which is what makes where I work super specialised. We have a very all-encompassing framework called realm theory, which understands the universal principles of how life works, right?
Realm theory,
right? And so a big part of, like I said at the start, a big part of solving a lot of our mental health problems is understanding, well, how do we really work?
Yeah.
And where have we strayed from that? Not, you have depression, let's deal with the depression. It's like, you've got depression because it's a symptom of the fact that you don't organise your life around life anymore. So where have you strayed?
Yeah.
Oh, you strayed here. Let's move you back. And along that journey, it's not I do for you. I just give you some stuff and then you figure it out within yourself, because you have to understand how life works within you. If you want to understand your nature, you got to understand it for yourself. If you want to understand life, you got to understand it for you. And, you're talking about knowing earlier on. Part of that mentorship was, one of the biggest realizations I had was the source of my greatest clusterfucks in my life have all come from when I've ignored my knowing and ignored my timing from my knowing.
Yeah. Yes. I think some people call it feather brick truck, or you get the, the tickle with a feather.
Yeah.
Do this.
Starts that.
Yeah.
Brick.
It gets
truck,
bigger and bigger,
right?
and then you
by
get
that
hit
point,
by the truck.
Yeah, and then life's a fucking catastrophe, and you're going to have to spend several years unwinding it and rebuilding it, right?
Yes.
Because you strayed, which was your picture.
Yes, my picture that I drew of the
exactly
from the path. Yeah,
exactly. And the journey out also involves a journey back.
Yeah,
it involves the journey of letting go, and your letting go is your healing journey, right? Healing is letting go of the stuff that's not you, that has no place in your life.
Yeah,
right. So if we just fill our life with stuff that has place, then if we connect, integrate, and expand, as opposed to isolate, fragment, and then end up disintegrating, things work out well for us. So if we bring together a bunch of people who understand and have a sense of their nature, place, and purpose, they've started to connect, they've started to integrate, they've started to connect to their knowing, they start to have a sense of what's theirs and not theirs. You don't have to be, fully formed in this, but you start to have a good sense. You've created a link to a pocket, and that pocket, then of you, then starts to become a fractal of the greater part of you, which will send pulses and resonance throughout you, right?
Yeah,
because we are part of nature, and nature works with fractals. So if you get one part really robust, fully integrated, right, that you take max responsibility for, remember we talked about responsibility, that will start to have implications through the rest of the system, which is you, right?
Because you also stand as an example to others as well, I guess,
that too.
Yeah, it would be
but
contagious.
It's also, but that contagion starts within you.
Yes.
Right? You create a connection to your nature, place, and purpose. You clean up some of your patterns of control and power. You create, so there's a pocket of you that is of high integrity, not because we're trying to create compartmentalization. We just start with one part, and then that starts to feed out and feed out and feed out. Once that little bit of momentum started, you then bring those people together to form a collective, something that is bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
Right? And then those people can almost dissolve themselves into that collective.
As one,
right? And so even if stuff emerges that, stands on the toes of sacred cows, you're still all right, because you're still connected to your nature, place, and purpose. You're still, that you'll still be whole at the end of the experience, right? Then you hold the space for stuff to emerge. Then you can follow exactly the same processes that you did individually to clean up some of the patterns that you've created as a result of being on the wrong imbalance of power and control and things like that. Then you can take those out of the collective unconscious. You take that out and you start to reveal the nature, place, and purpose of the collective group that you're in. We did it with some companies.
Yeah.
You remove that, And then things, because you're starting the process of putting life back as the central organizing principle of that business will start to restructure itself really rapidly. Because remember, the business is a living entity.
Yeah.
Right? So all of a sudden, how does that show up? All of a sudden, you know, we worked with one company over in Sydney. All of a sudden, within a week of finally honing the collective to bring them together, within a week, 10 days, 5 people who the owner never really wanted them to be employees but couldn't actually fire them, spontaneously hand their resignation in. Why? Because the conditions that kept them there, unconsciously, collectively unconsciously, have gone.
So the idea to I don't want to say work on self, connect to your nature, place, and purpose individually could have an impact on what we're seeing around Australia, the UK, these divisive things that are happening.
Yeah.
It would be so foreign to people. They would feel like that could have no impact. Me working on myself.
So, all right.
So
here's an example.
you've
right?
just explained very well how it can, and
Yeah.
you used a business for
I used a
example.
business.
Australia as society is a much bigger scale.
So we at Wisdom in Life hasn't stopped with businesses.
Yeah.
Right? Recently we pulled together, so I worked with 7 individuals who have done extensive work to connect to their nature, place and purpose, remove patterns of trauma and abuse, understand their essence, understand how life and the energy pattern of their life, and connected that to their impact in the world individually. So I've worked extensively with these individuals for about a year and a half. We then brought them together to create a collective. We started cleaning up some of the destructive patterns that are occurring here in Western Australia, right? And I remember driving into the office that day before we brought everyone together, and I was like, this is awesome. I don't need to ask fucking Roger Cook's permission to go into the collective unconscious of Western Australia.
Yeah.
I can just fucking go there
Yeah.
with people who understand who they are and how they work. And we started to see some of the patterns that were there and started the process of just gently starting to move some away. And within days, it's difficult to give you a concrete example, but within days you can start to see and feel things were just a little bit different.
Yeah. See, this excites me more than anything. Because as a political commentator in a lot of senses, obviously I don't just do that. We do ghost stories and conspiracies.
Oh, I know.
Fun, and we love it. It's
You
like,
see
look
it
at
all on the wall,
it's fun. I like it. But we are a political commentary podcast at certain points.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that I wonder, what impact can you have by talking about something? It's not necessarily bringing awareness. I'd prefer to bring people to this.
Yes.
I'd prefer to be like, well, this can make an impact.
Yeah.
What like how I communicate that to everyone, you're doing this right now for me. That makes me like feel so good.
Yeah.
My fear is a lot of people don't just buy in.
It's
not up to us to do that, though.
is
it? Or is it?
Well, like there's 2 things in what you just said. One is you've tipped on something, right? And it's kind of why I ended up having to stop my podcast, because I got to a place with it. And I also realised that I was filling myself with everybody else's story, and it was time for me to connect to my own nature, place and purpose.
Oh, mate, you are preaching. I'm trying to just go back.
Yeah.
This is why this is anyway, sorry. Great timing, this podcast for me.
And so, and here's the other blunt truth, right? And people don't like this bit, is like talking about stuff, comms, awareness is good, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
You know, having a 50-minute one-way conversation with someone who's got letters after their name has its place.
Yeah.
Everything has its place, but we should not mistake its place, right? You know, I have a degree in psychology, a master's in organisational psychology, but I'm not a registered psychologist, right? This is why I say I work in the field of technical stuff, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is, you know, talking about mental health is not going to change anything. You have to have a framework. You have to have processes. You have to have active activities, like what I did with you before. You know, tools, so that you have to understand how the whole entity works and work with it, and have tools to go in there and have a tinker and a play and a look and move things. And part of it is very logical. It's very, very logical. So yeah, but then the second part of what you said about being a political commentator, right? And it kind of applies again, really, is there's a lot of us that can have, very deep, well, I'm going to say deep, intellectualized, nuanced, rational conversations about stuff. But all we're doing is accessing our thinking there, like the depths of our thinking. There is our feeling, there's our beliefs, there is our knowing, right? If we were to start, I said I'd only go back into podcasting, running a podcasting, if I can bring people together who connected to their nature, place and purpose, so that we all talk from our knowing, right? That'd be a conversation worth listening to, because that would actually have an impact, right? And so, we can talk about the politics and this and that, and, conspiracies are another one as well, because conspiracies are always built on, a valid observation, right? But then we get swept away with cultural dynamics, anger, them and us, and you're now all of a sudden on the wrong end of a power and control imbalance, and you're just at the whim of your patterns, and off you go, right? And so, and we have this mega structure of the internet, which just wants you to fuel your attention, so it'll just give you more and more and more, and that's fueled on either anger or nostalgia. Either of the two will stop you from being present and take responsibility of who you are and what you're doing in the world and what you're bringing into it. And so while we're doing all of that, we stay up here in this very cognitive, rational, behavioural, that what you're going to do, what the politician's going to do, what the billionaire's going to do, and this, that, and the other. But the reality is, what shapes us is this bigger 90% that sits underneath, whether that's you and your own unconscious and everything that sits beneath that, including your core nature, which is where life enters your body, or whether we're talking about the collective commons and the collective unconscious and all that I've talked about in terms of, the culture, the space in between us, where all these dynamics are occurring, the same dynamics that are in you and you can experience because they're replicated within you. This is why, if you're sitting in an organisation, why is it that a bright, shiny new person that turns up within 6 weeks is as sour and cynical as everybody else? It's because they've no match to what's actually lodged in the culture of that organisation, right? And so while we continue to stay up here looking at what can we do, and then being consumed by our anger and the power imbalances and the patterns that included, this is just this massive area for influence and focus that we can work in that just goes missing. Yeah. And that's where it's all happening. Yeah. Right. And so, having experienced it in myself by doing subtle things in my own unconscious, right? And understanding where decisions I've made along the way. I mean, I even did it yesterday with one really small, subtle decision that I made when I was 25, had enormous ramifications. I'm 50 now, for the next 25 years, right? And I could see it, I could surface it, I could remove the impact, I could remove the pattern. So what have I done? I've created more space for my nature, place and purpose to take up space. That's what an existential crisis is. That's the dynamics of an existential crisis, is you take stuff out that has no place. It creates this enormous space. You are uncertain in the world because what you had before to navigate is now gone. But in that space, if you can hold the space long enough, you will grow into that. Your nature, place and purpose will grow into that. You'll become more of who you're supposed to be, right? But most of us don't know how to manage these things, right?
How do we manage them?
Well, one of the curt answers is you come and have a chat with me.
Yeah.
And us. But
because and this is something, and you've just touched on it. I want to be able to create an impact on listening.
Yeah.
So if someone's to listen to this, I want them to be able to take something themselves and go, I can impact this in this way by taking accountability, taking responsibility, whatever it is, from what they've learned.
Yeah.
So what is it?
Well, you want someone to take something away from them.
Yeah.
That will happen when you talk from your knowing to their knowing.
Mm.
When you talk from your core nature to my core nature, and we converse between the two, then somebody will have something that they can take from it.
Now, if I'm obviously talking to dead air almost, I'm talking to the imaginary person, and it's, millions of different people who have different ideas and concepts. So,
but
is it I'm speaking from my knowing?
Yes.
And when they are in their knowing, they'll hear what they need to hear?
Well, yeah. I mean,
ish.
You can talk to someone's knowing even if they don't realise that they're doing it.
Okay.
Right. You can access it. Some of the simple questions I ask somebody just to even get them slightly close to it. But even still, you can still talk to it, to someone's knowing, even if they're lost out in their thoughts and emotions and this, that, and the other. People who are angry, that's quite challenging because they are so stuck.
Mate, and not to...
Yeah.
I had an incredible conversation with someone who was incredibly angry at me for not supporting these protests. This specific protest, I'm going to go to one. But very angry, and I decided I refused to engage in the way that they were engaging with me. And I said, just because someone's being an asshole to me doesn't mean I have to be an asshole to them. That doesn't change the person who I am. So I kept on saying, basically, broadly speaking, I completely understand. I understand you're passionate. I understand you're angry. But this is my decision and this is the position I'm taking. And I hope you can see that collectively I think we should come together and I think there's other better ways to do it, blah, 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 blah. It took about 50 messages, and I don't normally engage with someone who's angry at me. And at the end of it, they apologised. They said, I'm just angry and I'm sorry, but I'm passionate and I feel helpless. And I thought, and I had this, and even
there
now as
is.
I speak it, I went,
there it is. So there it is.
Yeah.
I am angry, right? And anger, because it's one of the emotions that first gets socialized out of us, right? You see the kid having a tantrum. What to do? You want to stop it. Mm-hmm. So we've all been that kid. Mm-hmm. And so that becomes like a thick layer and a thick layer and a thick layer, right? And so people are consumed by this anger because they've not acknowledged, expressed, and let it go, which is a key part of navigating our emotional landscape.
Yeah.
And so there's all this stuff underneath it. Now, it's awesome that guy got to, I'm angry, I just feel hopeless. Yeah. Right? So, Cam, if you encounter somebody who's angry next time, what are you going to do? Another 50 messages? No. Seems like you're angry, mate. What are you angry about?
Does that come across as, well, I guess the way you frame it, I guess.
Well, the choice is yours, right? The choice is yours. When people get stuck in anger, they become like a constant, right? And we'd all this is one of the things, we all interact with people and we like to think that they're variables, right? I talk to you, you talk to me, you take on what I'm saying, I take on what you're saying, I might adapt my behaviour just slightly. And this is not, don't get me wrong, this is not the outside world organising me. This is just me being in a social relation because we're social beings and we're all connected, right? Mm-hmm. And so, you're not going to change my core, but there's aspects of my nurture in how I do stuff that I might just adapt because we're talking, so we're variables. But the problem is because of this massive anger load that a lot of people are carrying, anger, resentment, guilt, etc., that keeps us very stuck. So we're not variables. If you're carrying a massive anger, guilt, resentment, like you're a constant.
Yeah.
Right. You're a constant. So I might come and talk to you once, right? And I'm like, oh, Cam didn't really listen to me. And then I might come and talk to you again. Oh, still not listening to me. Yeah. Come the third time, right? Who's mugging who now? Right? It's not my responsibility to move you. Your emotional load, your views in the world, how you show up, that's your responsibility. It's not mine, right? But if I keep turning up and chatting to Cam, who's got a massive anger load and he's a constant, who's mugging who? Yeah. Right? I'm mugging me now.
Yeah, you're mugging yourself.
Because I'm like, going down to the beach, getting angry because the sun goes down at 5:30.
Yeah.
Right? It fucking does it every day.
Mate, so, and I hate to keep going off on tangents.
Yeah.
This happened to me. I was so angry with the situation that's happening at Mullaloo Beach. It's turned into a sludge pit because of some industrial action that's been happening there. And I kept going to Mullaloo Beach, looking at the water and getting angry instead of going, stop making yourself angry. I'll try and make an impact. I'm going to use my podcast to use this. But I'm fucking keep putting myself in this situation that's making me angry and frustrated.
That's because you created a charge, an emotional charge, right? So this is another really interesting part of our natural patterns, right? Mm-hmm. When things change, we have an emotional response. Whether we've made the change or whether the change has been thrust upon us, we all have an emotional response. And that becomes before we start thinking, right?
That becomes us.
And,
well, not becomes us, but takes control.
If you acknowledge, express, and let it go, then you can start to get to clear thinking. But most of us don't acknowledge it. Most of us don't express it, don't know how to express it. And I'm not talking about fucking talking.
Yeah.
Right? It's pre-verbal. It's in you. It's full thing. It's not just in your brain.
Yeah.
Feeling is not in your brain. It's in your whole body.
Yeah.
Right? We do an exercise with people in one of our workshops, the MAP, right? And I give them a stick person and we say, right, where do you feel stress? Where do you feel anxiety? Where do you feel fear, guilt, shame, joy, happiness? And, you know, sometimes it's all here in the neck and shoulders on the stick man. You're like, do you find yourself having to go into the physio a lot in that area? Like, fuck, yeah, how's that? And that's because just like, you know, the 2-year-old that had their temper tantrum socialised out of them, that energy, where's it flowing now? It's going nowhere, so it stays.
Yeah.
Right, and so these things, this is really important because, like I said, there's a lot to be angry in the world.
Yeah.
But if you don't know who you are and how you work, right, we all have emotional responses to stuff, right? And if we don't deal with those, we don't acknowledge, express, and let them go, then we can't get to the real thinking that we need to be at, the real reflecting. What have we lost? What have I learned? What can I apply? So now I can go and try things out, and then I can make a decision, and then I can take responsibility and start something new, right? But we don't do that. So we carry all this emotional charge. And where does all this emotional charge go? It goes into the collective uncommons. It goes into your unconscious. It creates these patterns, right?
Manifest physically in some people.
So I learned about this first at the English boys boarding school, right? So I went there when I was 8 till I was 18, right? And people used to think that there would... People from outside used to say to me, oh, you're at a boys boarding school. I bet there's a lot of fighting. The answer was no. There was none. The reason why was because if you got into a fight, you lost, right? And the reason is this. Everything emotionally was shut down, right? There was no space for homesickness. There was no space for missing your mum, dad, sister, bedroom, toys, garden, pets, right? It was all just, right? It was all about thinking and doing exams and playing rugby, doing exams, playing rugby, right? But the game, bearing in mind you're living in confined spaces, in dormitories and stuff, right? The game was, can I tip away at you to the point where you'll lose your rag and show some emotion? Because in the structure of the culture that we were in, showing emotion was weakness, right? So what I would notice was one boy would speak to another boy like, you know, Cam, you're a bit of a fucking tool or something like that, right? And you'd take it, right? Because you don't want to show somebody that like that's annoyed you, right? But you've had an emotional response, right? It doesn't matter. You might have. So now we're back to reorganizing ourselves and reorganizing how we do stuff and reorganizing our life. So I've reorganized myself to be able to sit here and take shit from you and not let you see that there's shit going on for me, right? But we're human. It happens, right?
Yeah.
So then this emotional charge would be created. Then what would happen would be is, you know, we're in close confines and we don't go home at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So that emotional charge then moves around the group.
Yeah.
Right? And people would, you know, have a little chip at the original person or chip at each other and this, that and the other. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, that charge would come back to its rightful home.
Yeah.
These two people. And they'd have a dust up. Right?
Yeah.
And usually, you know, if I was the one who called you a tool, you would be the first one to punch, right? And because you because you were the first one to punch, you lost, right? Because that punch is showing emotion because you're
Yeah,
angry, right?
Yeah, yep.
So what I learnt was, and it was just intuitive because, you know, you're trying to survive boarding school. So you try and work out upstream what goes on so you're not at the point of being in these sort of things, right? So what I observed, sort of intuitive, I wasn't rationally doing this and writing it down, right?
Yep.
It's only years later I realised what I observed. What you realise is that, you know, there are emotional responses to things and that they go nowhere, right, unless they're actually dealt with, acknowledged, expressed and let go. Now, in the instance of boarding school, it was discharged, the emotional charge was discharged by a fight, right? And after that, things would be pretty chill for another week or two, and then the circle would start again. Right?
Yeah.
Then I do the degrees in psychology and organisational psychology. I become a corporate management consultant, and all of a sudden there was this weird feeling that I had, and I couldn't understand it. And it took me several years to work it out, and some of the things that were repeating. And what I realised was, you know, you might have a management decision or something like that. You know, we're going to change the IT system or this, that, and the other, which you know I was part of because I was doing a lot of change management work. And everyone would have an emotional response to it. And of course you will, right? What does this mean to my job? Is it going to change how I get paid, my bonus, this, that, the other, right? Because the whole workplace is fueled on financial anxiety, right? That's the fuel source of our modern day workplace, right? And so these changes or these things would happen and everyone have an emotional response. But because we can't have the dust up every 2 weeks to actually discharge it, where does all that charge go? Well, it just stays there and it festers and it starts to turn into these patterns that then repeat themselves. And, you know, it was, and then they start to repeat themselves. And you know, when I had this intuitive thing to go and listen to people who've been in organisations that I was working in as a consultant, who'd been with the organisation for like 10, 15 years. And I sort of say to them, like, I'm part of the team that's going to bring this new thing in and da-da-da-da-da. Have you seen something like this before? Oh, fuck yeah, about 4 times. And it was like, it was different because of this, that, and the other, but it's all the same.
It's the same pattern,
All right, okay. And I couldn't verbalise and articulate this during my 30s. It was only in my 40s when my own destructive patterns came in to bite me up the arse and create an incredible midlife crisis and life implosion for myself, till I start to understand them in myself. And then once I understood them in myself, then I was like, oh, now I can see what's going on in the workplace.
Yeah.
And then I met Roz, and then she had all the framework and everything for me to truly articulate it. And this is how I come to be where I am today talking to you.
Well, I think everyone at home, myself included, just listening to you there, can use that example you've just given with the boarding school.
Yep.
And find something relevant in their life that the same situation's happening.
Yep.
I got a perfect example at home where it's not too bad, but like my mum and dad, they live in Thailand. My mum's had to come over for some health issues. They have to live with me. And that's quite challenging. You know, you got your parents in your house and if it's not addressed, it festers and it becomes a bit of tension, a point of like, you almost a resentment, like you're in my space. Instead of, you know, it's far more easier for me to go, look, I do need my own space or something along these lines or whatever, you know, put down some boundaries and communicate it and then let it go because it's quite fine. I'm the one who said, yes, you can stay with me, of course. You're my parents. You live in another country. You can stay here while you're doing that, blah, 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 blah. And this is just an example. And that tension will build and it might thing where you have a dig at each other and then it goes away for a little bit and then it comes back. Yeah, so that's my example of like.
And then the challenging will be
people will find that with their friends. And
the challenging thing in your example is like your parents are over. I don't know how long they're over for. Like what, 2 months or something.
Yep.
So 2 months, right? So there might have been this sense of resentment, which is just like, and it's not socially acceptable or unacceptable, right? It just is.
Yeah.
And this is a key part of hopefully what people take out of this podcast is, you know, we have natural patterns and there just is. So are we working with it or against it?
Yeah.
Right. Are we working with how we really, really work?
Yeah.
Or are we working with how we think we should be working,
Yeah.
which is all part of how it started with these cultural forces that have reorganised us.
And is
right?
that resentment for them or for me for saying yes in the first place? Like
Well,
this?
it's probably for a bag of things,
yeah,
right?
correctly, yeah.
But unless you actually explore it and surface it up,
Exactly.
acknowledge, express, and let it go, right? You may reframe and help yourself and do all the great things that you read
Yeah.
about in resilience or personal development stuff, right? Pretend it's not happening. Tell yourself that life's perfect and it's all a great example of what should happen, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, right? But ultimately, you felt resentful, right?
Yeah.
Now, you might thread your way to the end of their trip,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, that's good. And, you'll kiss and goodbye. And then, like the grief of the funeral, the grief of they're
Yeah.
going back to Thailand means that everything that's happened just drops for a while and you're all hug and kiss and love each other and say goodbye and off they
Yeah.
go, right? And then you're like, oh, no, that was cool. And then they'll come again, right? And that resentment from this trip has gone nowhere, right? Because it's still in your relationship between the three of you, right? It's gone nowhere. So they'll come back the next time and something will happen, right? And everything's gone all right. And you might fire up a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's like, why is that? And it's not because what's happened today. It's because the thing that happened before is still there.
Left unresolved.
Yeah.
Well, it could be the other way as well. They have to live their life around my lifestyle,
And they will be putting stuff into the
Exactly.
collective commons, which is your relationship.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I use that as an example because that's something that's like a stressful situation, as it would be. But there'd be people who
100%.
are having workplace relationships that they're struggling with someone that they're dealing
Exactly.
with, or their own child, or their own parents, or whatever.
And
There's-
the way out of it is to take full responsibility for, what you're feeling, what you're putting into the collective commons and this, that and the other.
now,
But in a workplace where it's all like the layer cake and structured, we don't feel like we have responsibility over ourselves.
so the question is
Go on.
then with the taking accountability, responsibility, and acknowledging it, those sorts of things. Does that necessarily mean communicating it to the other person, or is it just acknowledging it, what it's creating within yourself,
So
or both?
there's probably a subtle bit of both in there, is that once you can acknowledge, express, and let go of the emotional charge of the thing that's, like, let's just say, irritating you, then you can see the situation clearly for what it is, right? We might trick ourselves to thinking that we can beforehand, but if we're still carrying that emotional charge, that will still be influencing our behaviours and the way we see things and our decision making, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I've just been out doing a big series of workshops with farmers around the country, around Western Australia, and, like particularly livestock farmers who have just had their business taken away from them because of the sheep export ban, right? There's a lot to be angry about there.
Yeah.
A lot to be angry about, right? And so there's all these discussions about, should I still farm? Is the farm viable? This, that, and the other, right? But if you're wrestling with all this, intergenerational expectation, what does it mean to be a failure? This, that, and the other.
This is a family farm.
This is a
We've been
family
in our
farm. We've
yeah.
been doing this for years. If I just close it up, am I a failure? All of this stuff. And that comes with a massive emotional, barrier around it. And if you're not going anywhere near that, right, then all this unresolved emotion and stuff that's going on will cloud your decision process.
This can be applied in any
Everything.
situation.
Yes. And so, it's about taking responsibility for what is in this instance, what is the emotional load you are carrying, right?
Yeah.
We all, the blunt truth is none of us got through childhood unscathed.
No.
We've all ended up being on the wrong end of a power and control imbalance, which is trauma and abuse.
Yeah.
We've all developed patterns to maladapt, not adapt. Adapt is where the whole living organism adapts to the situation. Maladaptation is, I'll send this bit through and I'll leave this bit over here, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've all ended up buying into stories that are not ours. We are all carrying huge emotional loads, right, of unprocessed emotions, right, that have not been acknowledged, expressed, and let go of. So we're carrying a huge amount of sadness, huge amount of resentment, huge amount of anger, huge amount of guilt. And we can pretend that that's not happening, right? We can organize our life around, oh, this is not happening. This is not happening for me, right? We can tell ourselves all these great stories like, yeah, but life is perfect. And this is just a learning thing for me. You know, this is the universe giving me, a great opportunity to step through the door and learn something about myself and this, that, and the other, and da. No. You're carrying a shit ton of anger, right? It's just like every fucking person else,
Creating
right?
your own issues, yeah.
And while we carry that huge emotional load, like we've only got a certain emotional capacity to carry this stuff in. And when we fill that up, then it starts going into our thinking, our beliefs, our physical, the way things we do, right? And if all that emotional capacity is filled up, how are you going to get anywhere near your nature, place, and purpose? How are you going to even understand the signal of what is Cam's nature? You haven't got a fucking clue, in essence, right? And we are responding to this. We're responding to this baggage of emotions that we're carrying. We are trapped within our patterns, right? And we can say that we're working on ourselves to give ourselves the false sense of I've moved above that, right? But unless you're actually starting to connect to your knowing, your nature, and you have a process to do that, so you can actually start to see it from there, that's not above.
Yeah.
We're not escaping this.
Yeah.
Like when people come and do workshops with me, I'm like, if you think you've come here to slide through life, get some tricks to slide through life so the shit doesn't apply to you anymore, sorry.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Right? Anyone who's telling you like, oh, life's perfect, the universe is perfect, everything's perfect, da. It's just avoidance, right? Of the blunt truth. Shit happens, right? There's good days and there's bad days, but how do you how do you work your way through this? Work with how we all work as human beings, whereby we feel we need to deal with those feelings, acknowledge, express, release, before we can think, before we can work, before we can do. And the more we do that, like brushing your teeth, right? So for me, my emotional load is a practice every day. I look after it. I make sure that there's space in it so that when serious things turn up in life, I have space for those. So I can see
How do you do that?
So there are a lot of practices and processes that we teach people through our workshops, right? But the key part is to recognize that we are emotional, and you need to acknowledge, express, and let go, right? So even if that's as simple as fuck, right?
Yeah.
With something super simple, or go a lot deeper to explore what you're really, really feeling. And this exploration isn't fucking talking about it, right? So now we have to look at non-verbal stuff, because all this happens before you can talk about it.
You mean the way you hold yourself, posture, like your demeanor, your facial expressions, everything?
What was the second picture that you drew today?
The noise.
The noise,
Yeah.
right. So you've shown me what the noise looks like.
Messy, scrambled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Distraction.
There you go. So what I did was I took you into your unconscious and I got you to bring up a representation of the noise. You show me that. Now I've got a clear idea of what your noise looks like. I can relate to that. You can sit alongside me and talk to me about it. Talk to me about it from the artifact that you've created, because you've taken something from the inside and you brought it out and given it form, right? When we acknowledge, express, and let go, we acknowledge that something is actually occurring. So we're taking responsibility of it. And to express it means that we take what's inside and we bring it out. Once we bring it out, then we can deal with it. Then we can actively let it go, consciously, intentionally.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, interesting. So we did do a little bit of an exercise prior.
Yes.
We walked through some things and how we're feeling, and you got me to draw them.
Well, I didn't ask you how you were feeling.
Well, no, how you're feeling, sorry.
Yeah. Essentially what I did was, and I don't know if you want to pick up that
yes.
green picture.
I think the first one was
yeah.
And they're the same thing, I guess, aren't
yeah.
they?
But ultimately...
if you're looking or watching at home, I don't know if you can see because the white.
Yeah. But ultimately, that is Cam's connection today to his knowing.
Yeah.
Right.
It was basically, to describe it for people who are listening, I got a little green ball and lots of straight lines going out in different directions, and it felt like the that was almost, I don't want to say light, but it was just, it was light going off in all directions, which was understanding, curiosity, love, compassion, knowledge, help, all these sorts of things.
And that tells me a lot about your core nature, right? Because different people will draw different things, and there'll be elements to them, right? But that tells me a lot about your core nature.
But and I want to note, that's to everyone.
That's, yes.
People who love me, people who hate me, people who are indifferent, people who don't know me, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, because that's part of your core nature, right? And the reason why I got you to do that was, well, A, to give you to give you a sense of some of the things that I do, but also B, was because for us to have a good, solid conversation here on the podcast, I wanted to make sure that you were connected to your knowing, so that I could talk from my knowing to your knowing.
You sneaky sausage!
You've
done exactly what you were talking about.
Exactly, and that's why I said, "What did I say?"
We have had probably, arguably, one of my favourite conversations that I've had on the podcast in a long time.
Cool. And what did I ask you to do with that picture?
To bring it here.
Bring
so
it
it's
here
in front of me.
Yes,
so I could keep connecting to it.
Correct. Because it takes a bit of time to get a good solid connection to our core knowing, and then it takes a leap of faith to start going, no, I'm going to start organising my life from the inside out, not the outside in. Right? That's the big thing, right?
Yeah.
And letting go of anxiety as a fuel source in your life.
Yeah,
because most people use it as a fuel source. I joke about. So I swim down at Cottesloe in an ocean swim group called Pod Squad, and I joke about the fact that 80% of the people that come down and swim are not actually exercising. They're just physically offsetting anxiety and budgie smugglers.
Oh, mate.
Yeah. So in order for us to have a good, solid conversation, I needed you to be connected to your core knowing from your core nature. Otherwise, I would have ended up having to potentially wrestle with your noise to get to somewhere. Yeah. Which is why I asked if we could do that beforehand, so that we could have a better quality conversation.
I'm not sure. I've experienced some incredible things in life, and one of the most incredible feelings, and it sounds silly, I've experienced that I can remember for a long time, was that guy messaging me back saying, "Sorry, I'm just angry." Yes. And I'm helpless. Yes. And I felt like I'd avoided all my emotional responses that I felt like I could have done, which I do sometimes. I still do. Of course, I prod and I get pissed off with people being dicks.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I sit here talk about this stuff. I'm still fucking human, right?
But mate, the feeling of, that's. Yeah. I feel like we've connected.
Now you feel light like that.
Yes, I felt exactly like that.
Yeah. And your core finally got through to connecting with his core.
Because I refused to engage with what?
With the noise.
With the noise.
With the pattern. With the noise. With the shit. Do you get it now?
I get it.
You get it now, don't you?
It's continuously be that version of you.
It's continuously organise from that place.
From that place. What doesn't align, what does align.
Now you're beginning to understand discernment.
And what aligns for me might be different for what aligns with you.
100%.
And this comes down to that point of what you spoke about before with you're going to step on someone's toes, but if you're connected with your knowing.
Then I know you'll be all right.
Yeah.
And
we're all.
Then we can start to have some really good, solid individual conversations, but then we can start to have we can go fucking places as a collective.
Well, this is, I constantly say this over and over and over again on the podcast. Now I know why I say it, because I always suggest that we all deep down want the same thing.
Yeah, we do.
We want love, compassion, understanding, a nice life for everyone and anything. Yes. We don't want to see someone suffering.
No, because we're all in it together and we're all connected. COVID showed us this.
Correct. And it doesn't matter if we all understood that we all want the same thing, which was the best for everyone. We just disagree on certain pathways there.
Yeah, that's fair.
But we all want that same thing. We'd come together and go, you're not fighting against me. We do. We're pushing for the same thing. Let's try and navigate our way there.
Different.
Correct. And that is something I've been saying quite a lot. And if we could come together like that and understand we do want the same thing, which is the best for everyone.
Yeah.
We've all just been, I guess, manipulated almost by the outside influences to think and feel certain things, act emotionally, and point the finger at others instead of taking self-accountability. Oh, it comes full circle, light bulb, boom. There it is.
You go. And you start, and all of those things that you want in the outside world, you have to start by experiencing it yourself. I have experienced the rise and fall of, our individualized, industrialized, colonialized way of doing things within myself.
Yeah.
For a good period of time, I was an avatar of the problem. Middle class, white, male, boarding school, privilege, England, here in Western Australia. I was an avatar of it all. And I've felt it rise within me. I was part of it, but I've also felt and seen and actively dismantled it all within me. So I understand how it all comes to an end.
So I guess for people at home, myself as well,
Yeah.
like we'll use me as an example. How can I carry on doing this podcast, for example? It's just respond, act accordingly to my inner knowing and align with that. Now, of course,
Yeah.
I am going to get off track sometimes. I am
Yeah.
going to respond emotionally. I might have a bad day. I might be grumpy. I might be tired. I might be hungry. And it might make me
in those
zoom
times,
out and go, ah!
Yeah, but in those times, recognise that is a natural response to the things that's going on.
Acknowledge.
Acknowledge, express, and let go
Yeah.
of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And,
Well,
the first thing we do with everybody that wants to come and do some work with us is introduce them to the map and get them understanding, acknowledge, express, let go. Because if you can't navigate big emotions, you can't get fucking close to any of it.
to be fair, and if I went back and looked at those messages to that guy, the first thing I did was I acknowledged that he was angry and frustrated and felt helpless. And I took responsibility for saying that this is my choice and I understand that my position makes you angry, but let's move forward together and let's come together in unity. And I let it go, and I didn't hold any resentment to him for his emotional reaction. And that gave him, I guess, the space to say, I'm sorry, I'm angry, I'm emotional.
You're not doing this now.
Okay.
You're working with how you work.
So I unintentionally diffused the situation by doing exactly what you said. Wow. Okay. This podcast does have some serendipitous moments because I don't think there's any coincidences.
No.
This has happened at the right time. It needed to happen for me. It needed to happen for the collective consciousness and for our listeners as well. I think there's a lot of things that people can take from this episode.
Yeah.
I'm not sure there's anything else that needs to be said, mate, but is there anything you want to touch on before we finish up?
Just one thing.
Yeah. Mate, anything you've nailed today.
You know how I said earlier on we where I work we clean up the cultures of organisations.
Yes.
And then I brought a bunch of people together to clean up Western Australia.
Yes.
Right. We are about to start a project which will run for 10 years.
Okay.
Where we bring people together to form collectives. And this will happen 3 times on all of the continents of the planet to start to build collectives so that we can start to clean up what's going on in humanity.
Yes, the shift in the collective consciousness is.
Yeah.
I see it playing out in positive ways.
So this is active,
Yeah.
right? This is active, focused, intentional to create groups. So if we can do it in an individual and we can do it in a business, and we started to tinker around in the collective unconscious and commons of Western Australia, it's like now we're doing all of it. So over the next 10 years, there's a project that sits in the background of what we're doing. And, say in the background, probably the foreground, where in different continents 3 times over the next 10 years, we'll bring groups of people together who want to learn how to sit in collectives to surface the patterns within humanity to let that go. So there is that going on too.
Mate, that excites me more. I will talk to you more after the podcast because I want to hear more about that. But anything you want to plug before we finish up?
Look, there's been a lot in what we've talked about.
I think people need to go back and listen.
Yeah,
maybe.
this might be a couple of times.
couple
A couple of times. That's fine too.
Yeah.
And look, sometimes you listen to this and it can make you angry. It can be unsettling. All of that, which is interesting. If you want to reach out, just reach out.
To who?
Me.
Yeah.
Come find me. Like there on LinkedIn is my usual place of habitat on the social media platforms.
Okay.
You can find us at Wisdom in Your Life.
Cool.
We're just in a cool little office down there in Myrie.
Yeah, I was just down in Myrie actually.
Yeah.
The other day.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's not too bad, mate. I appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
No, thank you. I've really enjoyed it.
Awesome episode. Love that. Might have to get you back when Delby's on and we can have a bit more of a
For sure.
update on how things are going. But mate, appreciate it and cheers for coming on.
You're very welcome.